So Marina Mabrey has responded to the to everything that's going on.
Marina Mabrey just looked like she was just unhinged out there after looking at this, man.
The intense matchup between the Sun and the Fever spiraled into total chaos. 6 technical fouls, 3 ejections, and 2 flagrant fouls, all packed into one dramatic night. But one moment stole the spotlight and set the internet ablaze. Marina Mabrey delivered a hard shove to Caitlin Clark, sending her to the floor in a move that had fans divided. Surprisingly, Mabrey stayed in the game, while Sophie Cunningham was ejected almost instantly, sparking backlash over what many saw as an obvious double standard.
All right, here, the night after WNBA Fight Night, Sophie Cunningham putting Jacy Sheldon in a clinch. Marina Mabrey targeting Caitlin Clark.
If you thought things couldn't get more infuriating, just wait until you hear how Mabrey reacted after the incident. Her response only added fuel to the fire. Do you think the league should step up and apply its rules evenly, possibly suspending Mabrey? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about it. Let's go.
Oh, and Marina Mabrey's going to get ejected. If the officials saw that, Marina Mabrey is going to get ejected.
Well, they're going to go and look at it.
All they had to do was just eject her. All they had to do was eject her and none of this happens. If the referees had ejected Marina Mabrey, nothing else happens. The Sophie Cunningham situation does not.
Then, once the dust had finally settled, the league quietly reclassified Mabrey's foul as a flagrant 2. No press release, no bold announcement, just a subtle update buried on the official site. Now the real questions begin. How did the refs miss such an obvious call in real time? Why did it take a storm of public outrage for the league to take action? And most importantly, will Marina Mabrey actually face a suspension? As many commentators strongly suggested during a live broadcast.
So, there are 4 players fined in that game. 4 players fined in that game, but the referees, the scariest part about all this is that the referees came out with their report. They came out with their report and said, the contact made by Mabrey did not rise to the level of ejection. Additionally, it did not meet the criteria for a flagrant 2 penalty. And it was given as a technical foul, not even a flagrant penalty.
We're about to dive into exactly how and why the WNBA overruled its own officiating crew, and whether that move calmed the storm or just poured gas on the fire. But before we get into all that, let's break down the moment that lit the fuse. The show that sparked a league-wide firestorm.
A lot of it is centered around the last 46 seconds where Sophie Cunningham hard fouls Jacy Sheldon. She gets ejected, Jacy gets ejected, does Lindsay? I think Lindsay gets ejected. And in watching the broadcast, even the broadcasters at the time mentioned if they would have just ejected Marina Mabrey, this probably wouldn't have happened.
Let's call it what it was, a full-speed blindside hit. Caitlin Clark never saw it coming. She was focused on the play, head turned. And then bam, Mabrey launched her to the floor. This wasn't just another hard foul. It felt personal. The crowd exploded. The commentators were in disbelief, and most expected a flagrant 2 or an immediate ejection. But shockingly, Mabrey only got a routine technical, and the game moved on like nothing had happened. Broadcasters were stunned. Players were furious, and fans completely losing it.
So Caitlin Clark gets poked in the eye. Marina Mabrey doesn't even see what happens, and she just decides to clean Caitlin Clark out of it. And the referees just said, nah, it was not worth an injection. So Caitlin dribbles. Look at how far she is away from the ball, by the way. Look at how far she is away from the ball. That's literally, she's nowhere near the ball. She just jumps at her face. And then she belly bumps Caitlin. Caitlin retaliates by shoving in an unsportsmanlike manner, according to the referees. And then Marina Mabrey comes from nowhere.
Within minutes, the clip was everywhere, blasting across social media with one question echoing loud and clear. How was she still in the game? People weren't just upset. They were baffled. Neutral fans, former players, analysts, everyone was calling out the officiating. It wasn't just Clark supporters. It was the broader basketball world pointing out how the refs were clearly losing control of the game. And the frustration only grew when you looked at the other calls, like Sophie Cunningham getting tossed immediately for a play that wasn't nearly as intense as what Mabrey did.
At this angle, you can see just how far Jacy Sheldon is away from the ball. The ball's here. She's hitting Caitlin Clark in the face here. If you guys are looking at my cursor. I'm sorry I can't make this bigger. My cursor. She hits Caitlin Clark here. The ball's here. The ball is 3 feet away from Caitlin Clark's face. And she just targets the face. She targets the face. Like, I don't know if there's any other way to describe it. Like, this is clearly... She just lunged at her face. She went nowhere near the ball. She lunges forward. She absolutely, positively, zero doubts about it, lunges at Caitlin Clark's face.
The inconsistencies were impossible to miss. Sophie Cunningham was ejected instantly, while Mabrey stayed in the game after delivering a foul that was clearly more reckless and dangerous. To many, it felt like a textbook example of uneven rule enforcement, and the optics didn't do the league any favors.
I don't see how you can say that any other way. She literally lunged at her face, and then Caitlin's there walking away, and she belly bumps her. Like, by the way, Caitlin with the shove. Caitlin does not move Jacy Sheldon. If you look at this angle, you can see Caitlin Clark does not move Jacy Sheldon. They're like, Caitlin shoved Sheldon. Caitlin literally, Jacy Sheldon's still moving forward. So Jacy Sheldon is the one who initiates the contact, and then Chaser, and Marina Mabrey comes from nowhere.
People kept piling on asking, are the refs just spinning a wheel before each whistle? Because if the same standard had been applied across the board, there's no way Mabrey should have stayed in the game. But the inconsistencies didn't stop when the final buzzer sounded. Nope. That's when the WNBA's quiet damage control began behind the scenes.
She ended up stating this: Marina Mabrey's technical from last night's Fever Sun game has been upgraded to a flagrant 2. Oh man, the league told ESPN a flagrant 2 comes from a standard fine. Additionally, Sophie Cunningham was fined separately for her hard foul with 46 seconds to play.
That's right. The league later came out and quietly said, actually, we've upgraded it to a flagrant 2, which, let's be honest, is basically them admitting, yeah, our refs blew it. Had that call been made in real time, Mabrey would have been ejected, no questions asked. To fans, it wasn't just a correction. It was a full-blown admission that the officiating crew didn't just miss the mark, they completely whiffed.
People are calling for Sophie Cunningham's ejection from the league. People are commenting under Marina Mabrey stuff.
The league claimed Mabrey's shove met the definition of excessive and unnecessary force. Okay, cool, but why wasn't that obvious in the moment? The refs had a front row seat, no blind spots, nothing hidden. Anyone watching with one eye closed could tell it was over the line. And that raises a bigger, more uncomfortable question. Was this just one blown call, or is the WNBA staring down the barrel of a full-blown officiating crisis?
It is kind of, frustrating to see the hypocrisy everywhere in all the spaces when it comes to the Indiana Fever, because I'm seeing the same people saying, and the same people in the media, the same people in social media, which social media doesn't really count and it shouldn't, but these are filtering to people in the mainstream media saying it was a physical league last season to Sophie should be ejected and her spot should be considered in the league, and calling her out on all these physical plays that were totally excusable until the Indiana Fever.
And it wasn't just that one moment. Let's not forget Caitlin Clark got hit with a technical just for reacting after getting clawed in the eye. Sophie Cunningham was fined and flagged for a play that didn't even look half as aggressive as Mabrey's. Every whistle felt like it came from a different rulebook. If Mabrey had been ejected when she should have been, the entire tone of the game could have shifted. Instead, we got a patchwork fix slapped on after the damage was already done.
There's no way y'all coming after the game and then now you're saying, oh, it should have been a flagrant 2. Oh, we should have. Look, you're catching the smoke and now you want to change it. You need to do it during the game. All right, during the game, go ahead and call it the way it is, man. Stop with the nonsense.
Now everyone's asking the same thing. How are players and fans supposed to trust what's happening on the floor when the rules seem to shift minute by minute? The gap between what officials call in real time and what the league decides after review keeps getting wider. And the worst part? The refs and the league can't even agree on what counts as a flagrant foul. That's not just a bad look. It's a full-on credibility crisis. So let's cut to the chase. Who's really responsible for this mess? The refs caught in the heat of the moment, or the league? Stepping in only after the backlash exploded, all eyes quickly turned to lead referee Ashley Gloss, who defended the call postgame, stating that Marina Mabrey's shove didn't meet the threshold for a flagrant 2 or an ejection. That's why Mabrey stayed in the game with just a technical. Gloss stood by the decision. In real time, it just didn't cross the line.
Contact made by Mabrey did not rise to the level of an ejection. Additionally, it did not meet the criteria for a flagrant foul penalty 2. Clearly shows me the referees need some schooling, man. Okay? They need some schooling. You had these referees out here clueless, man. And I was wondering what was taking them so long to call the right call. I swear to you, man, we lived 2 lifetimes before they came back and said what they needed to say about the nonsense that